home to join us in that later. For those who don't know me, I'm Mark Triggs, one of the leaders here at Bridgnorth Baptist Church. I am a bit weird, so I have to admit to being hugely excited to be leading you in this service. I like uncertainty and change, and I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. Now, I confess that that excitement is tempered with a massive dose of trepidation, as we're trying to bring you a more seamless broadcast and a richer sense of togetherness than we've so far been able to in our two previous virtual services. At this point, I'm going to go into my groom at a wedding routine, as I have a long list of people to thank for making this possible. Foremost, John Southcombe, who is pulling this whole broadcast together in the background and has led the team on trial after trial and a Friday dress rehearsal where we finally decided that we'd give it a go today. Thank you so much, John. We are indebted to you. He's been ably supported and assisted by a group of people far younger, more technically gifted, and frankly, better looking than me, including John Stark, Joe Page, Philippa Cordell. Excuse me, I've just realised that I've got my volume on, so I'm going to have to stop that. I'll be back with you in a second. First, technical glitch encountered. So I was saying that John Southcombe has been ably assisted by others, including John Stark, Joe Page, Philippa Cordell, Lucy Southcombe, Richard Whitney, Simon Scowcroft, and Tom and Shani Aberley. Bless you all. We've had the loan of a mic from James and Emily Mondon, for which thank you. And that will enhance our worship shortly, courtesy of a funky new app. Thank you also to the team of Graham and the Trinity of Johns, Smith, Stark, and Farron, who have been serving us daily bread via email and Facebook. God has blessed us with the technology to connect. So please let us know if you want to go on our database or to gain access to our Right Now media stream of Bible studies. Also, let me encourage you to tap into our Facebook feed and feel free to share that far and wide. It's amazing how God seems to be turning these dark times for good and giving us simple yet powerful outreach tools to reach new people. Next, I want to say thanks so much for your service to our visiting team who continue to support our most isolated and vulnerable folk. Along with our coronavirus crack squad of about 15 or 20, I believe, that are led by Alan and Ali Muscat. Thank you to all of you. In this time when social distancing and isolation are the order of the day, it is so comforting that we can have this spiritual connection and unity in the Spirit, and that Jesus is with us as well, because he promised to be so whenever 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name. Or the 80 that I understand are currently tuned into this broadcast so far, probably with typically 2 people viewing each feed. And so we pray. Abba Father, thank you that you are our daddy, that you want a personal relationship with each and every one of us, and are intimately concerned in every detail of our lives. And yet, you are almighty, omnipotent, omniscient, and sovereign over all, not least coronavirus. So we, who have trust and faith in you, can rest secure in the knowledge that you are sovereign over all things and have absolute control because you created all things. Thank you for the technology and the hard work of your servants that makes our gathering today possible. And receive our worship and prayers today as holy music reaching up into the heavenly realms as we glorify and bless your name this morning. We pray for all those who are suffering in these difficult times, the sick, the elderly, the vulnerable and isolated, those who are grieving, depressed, or downcast. We pray for our key workers on the front line, whether they be nurses or doctors, ambulance drivers, teachers, supermarket staff, delivery drivers, police, or the armed forces. We pray for our leaders that they would govern justly and wisely, and for the scientists and academics working on a vaccine. We pray for our nation as the death toll accelerates, and for so many countries across Europe where the virus is claiming thousands of lives, and further afield in America, China, Iran. Amen. But it's not all doom and gloom. I've got a couple of really happy announcements to make. First of all, we want to give a round of applause, let's do that, to Linda and Alan Mason, who this week have celebrated their golden wedding anniversary. For those of you a bit younger than myself, that means 50 years of marriage together. And we applaud them and join me in doing so, because that is a fantastic, fantastic innings. We also want to raise a glass to Pippa Tudor, again, who is, well, it would be rude of me to admit a woman's birthday, but whose birthday it is today. So congratulations, and if you're tuned in, Pippa, happy birthday to you. I've talked a lot about the sort of plague, famine, and flood of the current situation, but God promised to build his church even in those times, and that he is doing. We announced in our final service before the lockdown, which therefore many of you will have missed, that much to her relief, Shani did finally actually give birth to little Eva Grace. And I'm delighted to say, by the wonders of modern technology, we're now going to cross to the very youngest and newest member of our church at the Aberley home in Lowtown. Hello, Tom, Shani, and Eva.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, guys.
It's really lovely to be here with everybody. It's such a blessing that we can all come together, even virtually. So we wanted to introduce everybody to Eva. So she was born on the 11th of March at 25 minutes past midnight, weighing £6 15 ounces. And it's just been a real pleasure to have her home. And even though it's been an awful time having the quarantine, it's been just lovely to have the time with her to bond and just spend it as a family. We want to thank everybody for their thoughts, their prayers, all the gifts and cards we've received. Just, it's been such a blessing to have the support of everybody. So we just really want to thank you for that. And if we could make a little request, it's just have a prayer for all of those people who are becoming mothers or have become moms in the lockdown. It's a really scary time to have so little support and you can't see your families or your friends, but we know that we've got your prayers and that means so much to us. So if you could just pray for all of those other mothers out there, that'd be delightful.
That's it.
Lovely. Back to you, Mark.
Well, thanks very much, Tom and Shani, and it's so exciting to meet your beautiful bouncing daughter, Eva. We look forward to seeing her in church once things return to normal, and we look forward to checking in with you again later in the service for communion. Thank you also for the encouragement to pray for expectant mums and recently having given birth mums about the isolation you're experiencing at the moment. Well, we're now going to enter a time of worship led by John Stark using this clever app called I Sing Worship. You will hear John's angelic voice in the broadcast, and the words will appear magically on the screen at the appropriate time. So feel free to sing along to your heart's content. Thank you, John, for your willingness to be the guinea pig and to give Simon a week off. Over to you.
Of course. Thank you, Mark. I think we're ready to go. And so, yeah, I thought this morning, it's Palm Sunday. We're remembering Jesus walking triumphantly into Jerusalem. And so let's just sing a few songs together that praise Jesus, come rain nor shine, and remind us of his character and who he is. So we'll start with Mighty to Save. We'll move into Blessed Be Your Name, and then we'll finish with 10,000 Reasons. Here's hoping that everything works. Everyone needs compassion, a love that's never fading. Let mercy fall on me. Everyone needs forgiveness, the kindness of a Savior, the hope of nations. Savior, he can move the mountain. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save. Forever, author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. So take me as you find me, all my fears and failures. Fill my life again. I give my life to follow everything I believe in. Now I surrender. Savior, he can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save. Forever, author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Jesus, shine your light and let the whole world see. We're singing for the glory of the risen King. Savior, he can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save. Forever, author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Savior, he can move the mountains. My God is mighty to save. He is mighty to save. Forever, author of salvation. He rose and conquered the grave. Jesus conquered the grave. Blessed be your name, In the land that is plentiful, where your streams of abundance flow, blessed be your name. And blessed be your name when I'm found in the desert place. Though I walk through the wilderness, blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be your name when the sun's shining down on me, when the world's all as it should be. Blessed be your name. And blessed be your name on the road marked with suffering, though there's pain in the offering. Blessed be your name. Every blessing you pour out, I'll turn back to praise. When the darkness closes in, Lord, still I will say, blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. You give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. Give and take away. You give and take away. My heart will choose to say, Lord, blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name. Lord, we thank you that despite our circumstances or whatever is going on around us, you are in control. And as such, we have so many reasons to praise you. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. rich in love, and you're slow to anger. Your name is great, and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come, still my soul will sing your praise unending. 10,000 years and then forevermore. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. Yes, I'll worship your holy name. Lord, I'll worship your holy name. Lord God, thank you that we can gather together to praise your name. Thank you that you are so, so good and are sovereign over all things. Amen. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, John. That was just absolutely fantastic. I don't know about you at home, but I was belting it out at the top of my voice here like I was singing in the shower. I had to be careful because there's a 20-second lag on the live broadcast going out, and my family are watching that in the other room. But fortunately, we live in a little hamlet, so I hope I haven't assaulted too many eardrums in the community. I should just mention that Simon, our church leader for worship, was involved in our discussions and had blessed this development and encouraged John to give this a go, leading worship today using this new app. I hasten to add, I think he was blessing the idea of John doing the experiment and not him. But he did quip at the time that maybe this was our new virtual Simon and we would soon be dispensing of his services. So please let me go on record publicly and say, we love you to bits, Simon, and we can't wait to have you back leading our worship in future. But that was absolutely awesome, John, and has blessed me, and I hope you too. I'm now going to pass to my dear wife, Susie, who is here as we hunker down as a family at home for our reading today. And this doesn't require modern technology. It just requires me to give up my seat. Over to you, Susie.
Morning, everybody. The reading today is taken from Matthew 21, verses 1 to 11. Jesus comes to Jerusalem as king. As they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and at once you will find a donkey tied there with her colt by her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, say that the Lord needs them, and he will send them right away." This took place to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. Say to daughter Zion, see, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey. The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and placed their cloaks on them for Jesus to sit on. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed shouted, Hosanna to the Son of David! Blessed is he who comes to the name of the Lord! Hosanna in the highest heaven! When Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred and asked, who is this? The crowds answered, this is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee.
Thanks so much, darling. In a moment, we're going to go to Graham for his insights into Palm Sunday and for a virtual communion. So if you haven't already done so, now is your final chance to get some bread and wine ready in your home to be able to join the whole church body in communion. For anyone who looked at the annual plan that we sent around earlier this week, which coronavirus has kindly shot a torpedo through the hull of, Graham had planned for us to share a Passover meal this Thursday coming. We're going to do the next best thing in a moment as Graham shares something about the significance of Passover and leads us in communion. But before I pass over to you, Graham, pardon the pun, let me pray for you. Graham, we pray that God is blessing you and your family in this time of forced isolation. We pray that he has given you a special anointing for what he has given you to share with us now. We pray that it will be God's words that will emit from your mouth. We pray that our spiritual ears will be open to what he has to say to each of us individually through your talk. In Jesus' name we pray. Over to you, Graham.
Well, good morning, and it's very good to be here. I'm the one person in the whole service that actually has to do all of this standing up. But even so, it's great to be here, and it's exciting that actually this is our third service where we've joined together virtually or remotely. And I've got to say, this has been a much easier one to do technically than the previous one. So thanks very much to John Southcombe and the team for this. Today is, as we've said, Palm Sunday. And Palm Sunday is the day that we celebrate Jesus' arrival into Jerusalem. Although what we know is, of course, that Palm Sunday represents the start of what was actually a very, very dramatic week with tremendous highs and lows. So Jesus arrives into Jerusalem. And one of the things that we have to recognize here is that this was planned. Jesus didn't arrive by accident riding on a donkey. What we've got to recognize is that Jesus, for the most part, as far as we know, walked just about everywhere. But he made arrangements for a donkey to be available for him to ride into Jerusalem. And lo and behold, the crowds come out. And if you like, all the excitement around Jesus' radical and dangerous teaching, his confrontations with leaders and synagogue around the various towns that he'd been teaching, and of course, the healings and the signs and wonders that he had shown, all culminated in this mass of excitement as he rode in on a donkey. And the whole of Jerusalem knew that someone had arrived. And the question was, who is this? As if some didn't know. And clearly, as yet, some didn't. But they were soon told, this is Jesus of Nazareth, a prophet. And in comes Jesus. And it's an interesting thing to think that there's huge excitement around Jesus at the beginning of the week, and how, in fact, that doesn't last. Now, the Bible doesn't actually make it that clear whether it was, in fact, a Sunday coming up to his crucifixion on the Friday. But we know that Jesus was in Jerusalem for several days. We know that he did and said some very controversial things. And you ask yourself, don't you, really, if you wanted to be the crowd pleaser, would you then go into the temple and throw out the people who were profiteering from the rituals that were around at the time? Would you, in fact, confront the leaders and show up their hypocrisy and challenge them in the way that they were manipulating the law in order to benefit themselves and put other people under pressure? This was not popularist behavior. Now, what I'm saying to you is that Jesus had a plan, and his plan didn't involve crowd pleasing. Although the crowd was excited that day, what we've got to remember is that initially the week started to go downhill after Palm Sunday pretty quickly for Jesus. So, having spoken out about the holiness of Israel, or should I say the lack of it, Jesus then focuses on his disciples. He has a long conversation with them about what's going to happen. And then he does something very significant. He arranges to share Passover with his disciples. Now, Passover is an important meal in the Jewish calendar. And it started really at the very birth of the Israelite nation, where God arranged for them to be passed over with a disaster that was going to befall Egypt. And the way that they did this was to mark their homes with the blood of a lamb. And meanwhile, in the home, they ate a hurried meal together, ready to move on. Now, the instruction to the Israelites was that every year from then on, at the same time in the year, they should meet and celebrate this Passover meal. There were big gaps in Israel's history where this was neglected. But at the time of Jesus, we see a lot more consistency in this. And so when he instructs his disciples to get ready for Passover, they know what this means. So they meet together, and Jesus celebrates Passover and then introduces some new thinking. You see, when Passover was initiated, it was absolutely the birth of the Israelite nation. And when Jesus announces in the Passover that this is the start of a new thing, he takes some wine and significantly says, this is the blood of the new covenant. And the new covenant was something the disciples hadn't encountered. The new covenant we now realize, and in fact they realize later, was that each individual, whatever nation they came from, who was prepared to let go of their sinful lifestyle and follow Jesus instead, could receive new life now and eternal life beyond, in a way that was mind-blowing. Now, how did this happen? Well, it didn't happen with the crowds cheering all around him. That's how it started as he went into Jerusalem. But by the time we get to Good Friday, the crowd has all gone. And in fact, the last we hear of the crowd, rather than celebrating Jesus, They are suggesting that a known terrorist, a troublemaker and a murderer is released from prison and that Jesus is executed. Where have the cheering crowds gone? Well, they've disappeared, and Jesus is now left with a handful of people, brave people, around the cross as he suffers what is the most shameful and painful execution that the Roman Empire had to offer, and arguably one of the most painful executions that was perpetrated in human history. It's a long way from the cheering crowds. Jesus has gone all the way from super popular to absolutely abandoned. And yet he did that for us. Now, the story doesn't end there. And we know this because next Sunday we celebrate Easter, and on Easter Sunday, Jesus miraculously, triumphantly rose from the dead, the absolute winner. What we've got to remember is that there were those who stayed the journey with Jesus, that although they were around when the crowds were cheering, they were still around as people started to get very twitchy and nervous when Jesus spoke out in the temple. And despite the fact that they maybe disappeared for a short time in fear, they were still around at the time when Jesus was executed. And they were still around when Jesus rose from the dead. And there's a challenge for each of us, is that following Jesus isn't just about big celebrations, about triumphal entries. Following Jesus sometimes are the awkward times of controversy and sometimes times of real threat and danger. But ultimately, we have to remember this one thing, and that is this: Jesus is the winner. Jesus didn't just overcome death. Jesus overcame all the reasons for death. Jesus overcame the perpetrators of death, both physical and spiritual. Jesus was the complete winner. And those who follow Jesus are invited through the blood of the new covenant to be winners with him. Now, we're in dangerous times. Let's be honest. A lot of us find ourselves in a place of fear, a place of isolation. It's a threat that in some senses it's difficult to see or to understand. But what we have to remember is the same Jesus that we get excited and celebrate with in big crowds is also the Jesus who is with us when times are dark and dangerous. And his status doesn't change. Jesus is still the winner. Jesus is still the victor over death. He's still the victor over fear. He's still the victor over the things that plague us, haunt us, frighten us. And we are invited to be part of that victory by joining in the new covenant in Jesus. And that's exciting. And one of the things that we are enabled to do is to reenact the new covenant Passover, which is the bread and the wine that we use today. We call it communion. But essentially what we're doing is remembering that Jesus died so that we could have victory in this new covenant. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pray, and I'm going to invite each of you to share with myself. I've got Arlene, my wife, here with me too, and we're going to have communion here today in our house. And I'd like to invite you to have communion in your house with whoever you're with or on your own. Now, you're only physically on your own because together we're all joining together. We're going to do it at the same time. We're going to break bread, we're going to drink wine or juice, and we're going to celebrate Jesus' victory as we celebrate that we're part of the new covenant in him. So, at that Passover meal, Jesus took bread, and after he'd given thanks for it, he broke it, and he said, "This is my body, which is broken for me, broken for you. Remember me as often as you eat it." So, Father God, we thank you for bread. We thank you that we have food to eat, but we also thank you for Jesus. Jesus, we thank you for your obedience. We thank you that you were obedient to the price that was required for my salvation and for the salvation of all those who believe in your name. Lord, enable us, as we remember your death in this way, to enter fully into the highs and the lows of following you, knowing that ultimately we celebrate your victory. Bless us as we break this bread together. Join each of us spiritually one with another, because we are one body, sharing one bread together, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So let's share bread together with whoever you're with, or with me remotely, and enjoy it. So, Arlene, this is the body of Jesus broken for you. We're told that in the same way, after supper, Jesus took the cup and said, "This is the new covenant in my blood. Remember me as often as you drink it." Father God, we want to thank you that you had already provided a way for lost humankind to be reconciled with you, Father God. Thank you, Jesus, that you came and by shedding your blood so broke the power of sin and death and opened up the way for us to enter into relationship with you and through you, our Father God. Enable us today, Lord, to really enter into new life, to victorious new life, to let go of fear, to let go of uncertainty, to let go of the things that separate us from you, and to truly enter into your presence, because you have paid the price and enabled that to be possible. By your grace, Lord, unite us, although we are physically separated, unite us in spirit as we share the one cup, we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So let's take our cup and let's drink together. We share in the one cup because we are one people. So Arlene, this is the blood of Jesus shed for you. We thank you, Lord Jesus, that we are unified through your death and resurrection. Your promise was that you would build your church, And Lord, you are building your body here on earth in victory. Even in dark times, Lord, you always build your church. Build us up as a powerful, victorious people, bringing light and hope to this dark time. Lord, fill us with a sense that we are on the victory side because of your death and resurrection, as children of the new covenant, united by one Spirit, with words of good news, even in these difficult times. We thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Now I want to hand back to Mark, and thank you for sharing together with me and my family the victory that is in Jesus. Over to you, Mark.
Thank you so much, Graham. That was just brilliant. It's so powerful to think of that contrast in the attitude of the world from Palm Sunday to just 5 days later on Good Friday. And yet so reassuring, especially in these times of world chaos and hysteria, to think that what we as man saw as so bleak with Jesus' death on the cross was actually the pinnacle of your perfect redemption plan for the human race. We are the Passover posse, saved by the blood of the Lamb. Think of that, dwell on that in this time of coronavirus. And I really felt a sense of unity and oneness as all of us join together as a whole church body in communion, wherever we are in the world. And Nikki, if you're with us in Nigeria, then we are one with you. Through our shared act of eating bread and drinking wine with each other, Christ comes among all of us who gather in his name to seek him by his Spirit. And he desperately wants that intimate and personal relationship with us right now. Let us pray. Father, we thank you that though we are many, we are one body, for we all share in the one bread. Bind us together as a family, we pray, with cords that cannot be broken. I pray that the presence of Jesus fills your homes and lives today and throughout the week to come, and gives you peace which passes all understanding. Amen. Well, that's our virtual service over. I'd like to offer you refreshments, but I'm sorry to say you'll have to make your own. And mine's a strong, dark, sweet coffee, please. I'm told you should be able to replay the entire service on the same link on YouTube at any point in the future. So it will also be available for playback at any time to anyone with whom you share the link. Please look out for Daily Bread, which will be landing in your email inboxes from Tuesday through Friday this week coming. If you normally give via the offering baskets, please feel free to give electronically or send a check instead. And please also let us have any ideas on how we can improve our Sunday gatherings during lockdown, and any other feedback on what we as a church are up to in these strange times. And we look forward to welcoming you again next Sunday, which is Easter Sunday, for our next virtual gathering. Same time, same place, same channel. Have a peaceful, healthy, and safe Holy Week, one and all. God bless you. Until next time, goodbye.